Now in case of backward chaining, we start with the goal itself. So the goal is to prove that criminal West is a criminal. Now find out the rules which have criminal clause or criminal predicate as its right hand side. Okay, so that is the only rule for all x, for all y, for all z, American x and weapon y and hostile z, and cells x comma y comma z implies criminal x. That's the only rule which has criminal x as its right hand side or q or the conclusion part. So now the only substitution that makes sense for this is substituting x as west. Only then we can reach our goal. So we substitute x with west. That gives us sub goals. That means if I want to prove that criminal west is true, I have to prove the left hand side, and this is because of which rule? This is because of modus ponens. Because by modus ponens, if I know that p implies q is true and I know that p is true, only then I can say that q is true. So I have to prove that p is true. Now in order to prove that p is true, I have 4 things to prove. First is my first sub goal, that is American West. Second sub goal is weapon Y. Third sub goal to be proved is hostile Z. And the fourth sub goal to be proved is cells x comma y comma z. Now let's start one by one. Okay, so sub goal 1 is already a fact. American West is already given in the question. American West is already given in the question. So it's a given. Okay, it's a knowledge base fact 0. It's there in the knowledge base itself. Nothing to be proved here. Now off the bat, before proceeding ahead, let me just use collimization and create those 2 additional facts that I had created before, because I will need them for my other goals. Okay, so for example, for weapon Y, I want to use, for my sub goal 2. For my sub goal 2, I will use for all x, missile x implies weapon x. All missiles are weapons. Okay, or missile is a weapon. So for this, I need clarity on missile x. So therefore, I know I have this rule. There exists x, missile x, and owns no comma x. Now, how do I know I have to use this rule? See, because in order to prove this sub goal, I need to eliminate the variable on the left hand side. Now with universal quantifier, this is a universal quantifier over here. So I can substitute this with anything. It should be true for all values of x. So do I have any other rule which restricts me or which makes me use a certain value of x? So that particular rule is this rule. Okay, this one forces me to use collimization, because here I have to eliminate the existential quantifier. So using collimization, say x equal to m1, which is a Scolam constant. Basically, if we say that this particular rule is true for at least one x, there exists at least one x, let that one, at least one x, let that x be m1. Okay, so I can substitute x equal to m1. So this will eliminate there exists x part, and so I will have basically missile m1 and owns no comma m1. So these are now as good as facts for me. Okay, so missile m1 is like, now here this is my fact 0 which I have created or derived during my proof procedure. So this is fact 0, this is fact 1. Okay, and now I can go back to my sub goal 2, and I can say that for all x, missile x implies weapon x. So in this, I will use a substitution x equal to I will use a substitution theta 1. X is substituted by m1. Okay, I am saying I will, in exam you can write it again and again. So I am coming back to this rule. So this is basically substituting x with m1. So that gives you again, and using universal instantiation, So that gives you basically missile M1 implies weapon M1, and this we already know this is true because of fact 0. So therefore we can say that therefore by modus ponens we can say that weapons or weapon M1 is also true. So this is your fact number 2 in your proof process. Okay, now the next thing that we can prove is, so what is our next sub goal? Let's go back to our goals. Hostile Z, let's go to that. Hostile Z, sub goal 3. Now here, rather than saying that we are proving these sub goals, basically we are finding the appropriate substitutions from every sub goal, right? We are finding out what to substitute Y with and what to substitute Z with. So our sub goal 3 is to prove that hostile Z, not rather prove hostile Z, just find out a Z for which this particular clause holds true, or Z is a hostile. We want to find a Z who is hostile. Okay, so for hostile Z, now we have the rule that is enemy x comma America implies hostile x, and we already know it's given to us that okay, the knowledge base fact is that we already know this is from the knowledge base. Whatever is given in the question already, I'm calling it as a knowledge base fact. So this is a knowledge base fact number 1. Knowledge base fact 0 was American West. This is knowledge base fact 1. We are saying that enemy no comma America, that we already know, it's given to us. Okay, so therefore what we'll use is we'll use the substitution theta 2. This is x is substituted by no. When you do that, you get so you get, again, left hand side will be enemy no comma America, and so this is this is for all x. So you are also using universal instantiation every time you are using substitution. So substitution and universal instantiation, you have to write both, and then you can say that by modus ponens, okay, left hand side is true, therefore the right hand side has to be true. So you can say that hostile no is hostile. So this is, I can say that this is the derived fact number 3. I hope I'm numbering correctly. Yeah, fact 2 was weapon M1, so this is fact 3, hostile no. Okay, so now the only thing that remains to be proved is sub goal 4, which is cells x comma y comma z. Cells x comma y comma z. Okay, so now in order to prove this, we'll use the rule that is for all x. Now again, every time I'm saying you have to prove a particular sub goal, what are we doing always? So when we started with the very initial part, okay, backward chaining, our goal is criminal west, which is given in the question, prove that west is a criminal. We search for the rules which contain criminal x as the right hand side. Okay, then for these sub goals we are also searching for rules. So American West, we did not, this was a given fact, so we did not need to search anything. For weapon Y, we in fact searched for a rule. So this was a rule. We searched for a rule which had weapon X on the right hand side. For the next sub goal 3, we searched for a rule which has hostile Z on the right hand side. Okay, and now for our last sub goal, that is prove that cells X comma Y comma Z, basically we are using the rule that all the missiles owned by Nono were supplied to it by West. So that's the only rule which has cells on the right hand side. So missile X and owns Nono comma X implies cells, so Okay, missile X and owns Nono comma X implies West has sold it. West has sold X to Nono. So what's the only thing to be substituted over here is you substitute. Okay, so this is substitution number 3, I guess. So this is X is substituted by M1. When you substitute X with M1, what do you get? And using universal instantiation, you get the right hand side as missile M1, which is true. Okay, so you get missile M1 and you get owns Nono comma M1, which were our fact numbers 0 and 1 in this case. Okay, so this was because of fact 0, this was because of fact 1. I am writing this on a tab. I am saving some space, but in your answer sheet I hope you write it properly, right in front of it nicely. Okay, so this is right, this is our left hand side. Okay, and now using modus ponens, so by modus ponens, if the left hand side is true, therefore cells West comma M1 comma Nono has to be a fact. So this becomes our fact number 4. This becomes our fact number 4. Okay, so therefore, as we have proved all the 4 sub goals, so we have proved all the 4 sub goals, therefore the goal has been proved, goal has been achieved. Okay, as all 4 sub goals were proved. Okay, for the substitution as X as now it differed for every rule differently. So based on all the substitutions that we have done when proving all the rules, so we can say that this is backward chaining. We start with the goal, we create the sub goals, and then we prove all the 4 sub goals, like at least for some substitution of X, Y, Z, whatever variable is used in that particular clause, in that particular rule rather. So if we are able to prove that rule, so then that sub goal is achieved. All 4 sub goals are achieved, or all 3, or how many ever sub goals your goal has. If it may be only 1 sub goal as well. So if all the sub goals have been achieved, why were there 3 sub goals in this case? Because there were why were there 4 sub goals? Because there were 4 clauses over here, right? So this was the first sub goal, this was the second sub goal, because all of them are combined with ands over here, right? So these are all the 4 sub goals, right? If it was something like only one particular predicate implies criminal X, then only one sub goal. If there were one predicate and second predicate, then there would have been 2 sub goals, and so on. So I hope backward chain is clear to you. Okay, now I'll also paste both the photos. Now so backward chaining as well as forward chaining can be illustrated or can be shown using a tree as well. Okay, the only catch over here is that okay, I'll paste it, I'll add it in the video so you can see the image now. The only catch here is that although the forward chaining proof tree, you can see it as a top down, like it was built bottom up. So you start with the root level, that is, I'll draw the tree. Okay, so basically American West, you start with the child nodes, right? Then missile M1, and then owns Nono comma M1, and then enemy Nono comma America. So you start with the facts which are there in your knowledge base, and then you go on combining or concluding from it. So from enemy Nono comma America, you can simply conclude that hostile Nono, okay, based on the rules that you have. Now from missile M1, you can simply, this missile M1 was because of skolemization, right? This was because of skolemization. This was also because of skolemization. Okay, you need not write it like this in the tree, but you should write it in your paper. How did you arrive at this? Only the tree is specifically asked, right? So missile M1 will imply that weapon M1. Okay, and missile M1 and owns nono comma M1 using universal instantiation will prove that cells west comma M1 comma nono, right? And again you can then combine all four things. So you will combine 1, 2, 3 and 4 together to prove that criminal west. So this is how we created this. This is the forward chaining tree. Okay, and if I talk about the backward chaining tree, basically it will look the same, but now what we are saying is you mentally you have this dialogue. I want to prove criminal west. In order to prove criminal west, I need to prove that west is an American. But this is already proved, so there is nothing further to be proved here. There is no substitution to be done. These empty brackets mean no substitution. Then I have to prove that weapon Y. Now in order to prove weapon Y, I have to prove that Y is a missile, because that's the only way something can be a weapon. But in order to prove missile Y, I need a substitution, that is Y is substituted by M1. Okay, Y is substituted by M1. Now also I need to prove that, okay, hostile no is hostile. So in order to prove that no is hostile, now I cannot directly go to hostile no. So first I need to have that rule that west sells M1 to some X. I need to prove this, because see, I am drawing the tree from left to right. So first American west needed nothing. For weapon Y I am using substitution M1. So here at the root level itself for criminal west, I am already using the substitution X as X as west. At the root level itself I am using the substitution X as west. So then I substituted Y with M1. Now when I reach here, in a way X, so this should be Z actually, not X. So this is Z. Okay, so Z has yet to be substituted. So now the only rule over here is, in order to prove this is a stylistic way it is drawn. Both of these have to be true. So M1 has to be a missile, and this is already substituting Y as M1 we have written, and owns. Okay, now Z comma M1. Okay, but now I'm using the substitution Z as no, right? So I'm using the substitution Z as no. So therefore I can write this as owns no comma M1 using the substitution. Okay, so then now everything has been substituted. So now here in this leftmost node I need not do any more substitution. So hostile no, and in order to prove that no is hostile, I have to prove that no and America are enemies. So enemy no comma America, but that is already a fact from the knowledge base, so nothing has to be substituted in order to prove this. So this is backward chaining ka tree. Okay, that's it. If you have any doubts, do let me know.